fine.
Okay, part two with Orman. Today's date, I believe, is the 24th of July,
Yeah.
2025. I had an interesting time down at the lake today, watching some um, tadpoles. Yes, swimming about in the lake. Yes,
So,
unusual thing to see. Yes, but around here, I suppose there are lots of frogs. So,
yeah,
and the French
sequentially.
and the French aren't very far away. Yes. Well, they did attack Portsmouth in 1545. Yes, when Henry VIII was in power. Yes, so
Oh yeah,
there,
there's
there
all
must there must have been a lot of frogs about at that time too. Really.
yes, but yeah, but yes, right, and they eat them too, don't they? Or parts of them.
Well, no wonder they would attack England. I mean, it was a resource for frogs as well. There's lots of frogs here.
Well, I mean, I don't dislike people individually, but I do dislike some cultures, you know, and the ethics of behavior between different cultures is where wars begin and things of that kind. You know, some people in different African countries, they spit on their front room floor, which we consider to be not good. But they also think the same about us because we blow our nose in a piece of material and put it in our pocket. You know, cultural
Yeah, yeah.
context, really. And this is
Cultural
where
differences. Yes.
this is,
What we've grown up to accept
yeah.
as normal.
And the way the culture was at the time. But, you know, the culture as it is now would never have been envisioned how it is now in the 60s. I mean, I saw from Future World, it was a program in the 70s, I think, but they said one day everybody will have a personal phone. And they brought out this phone. It was like, I've never seen it, it was enormous, you know, and it'll go with them everywhere and this, that, and the other. But their idea of the future was good, but how they explained it or described it wasn't so good as against what we got today. You understand? And that's the same with countries between countries. France and England have always had this kind of antagonism underneath. I think it's competition too, you know. Personally, French is supposed to be one of the romantic languages, right? But I think English is a lot more romantic than French, really. Don't
I,
you? So you know, have you ever met a romantic frog?
well, yeah, we shouldn't really call them frogs.
Well, they call us all sorts of names. Someone said to me the other day, yeah, what do I call you? I said, call me what you like, everybody else does.
Yeah, it
But
reminds me
talking about the tarot in roundabout ways, you know,
yeah.
it's
Okay, well,
I
continue.
always wanted to demonstrate what I learned, and some of it can't be demonstrated by action, by what you do. Sometimes you do need a medium through which to work. I mean, there's more than just tarot, isn't it? I mean, crystal workers, right? I don't mean the people that lay crystals. I'm talking about someone who can actually see through a crystal ball. That's another form of divinatory. And I mean, there's runestones. You can cast chicken bones. You can cast anything in the practice of being divinatory, right? But there's still underneath that the desire for things to evolve. So the cards that I produced in 1976, published through the image, okay, through the book, Cobwebs 10, and I own the company, was the first stage. Within 3 years, you know, people have got used to them. They needed something more. And I was asked a question by somebody recently, said, well, why did it take you 40 odd years to do the next bit? And I think to myself, well, it's not a question of the next bit. First, you've got to update the major, then do a minor. Okay, but the major is culture itself. That's how it all evolves, life and the events of life and the connections of it, and the if you like, the emotional, mental and spiritual side of life evolves. So I wrote a paper a couple of days ago and I put it down, and in the morning I thought I'll read that in the morning. Okay, so I slept off to bed, fell asleep, got up, picked the paper up. So I was horrified. Or what? And I thought, hang on, it was good last night. Well, why isn't it good today? There are things in there I'm not so certain I would like to say because they're a bit out of date, but they were in the place. They were there at the time, but the next day it's because I've moved on. And that's what happens in your daily life and your cultural life too. So the tarot, if it had a minor pack, wouldn't have done very well with it at all. So I waited. I had other works of life to do anyway, until I could find the money, which I did, and then had the inspiration of how would I produce a very modern minor accompaniment to the major. And so I included various aspects, including the unseen, yes, that's them, and other views. Like, I mean, I've got cards in there that are not in most tarots, in fact, nearly all of them. So the diviner or the reader would have to find that subject matter, but I've laid them out in such a way that you couldn't go much elsewhere without coming across those particular points of view, like the influence card or the relationships card and things of that kind, seen and unseen. And I've added them all in because I wanted to produce something that would accompany or complement the major cards, which were all updated as well, because you can use those minor cards as well for other arts, not just divinatory, but divining arts. Divining is different to divination. Okay, that's a higher form of divination, so they can be read on their own as a pack of cards, believe it or not. And I've got somebody who's really into it, and they're doing readings all over the place, and they swear on it. It's fantastic because it's so easy to interpret. And that's because I've got the main features in those minor cards. Whereas before in the 60s, those main features in the minor cards were the major cards themselves. If you follow, it evolves. And it took me a long time to come to these answers and these particular things, because I had to have a science to produce alongside it of how to do and so on, which I'm still doing. I'm still producing it. In other words, it's being written, it's being done. So there are accompaniments to come out yet on these tarots about the art of tarot itself from the modern view, the modern way. Don't forget, this culture is far more conscious than it was in the 1960s. It was more of an awakened culture. So the awakened event of the esoteric life and tarot was all the world had. But now they have a conscious view. They have an animated view. They even have a spiritual view. So it is more demanded of the cards themselves. And I thought, seeing as I'm getting so old, I can hardly stand up, I might as well do it now before I bite the dust and get something out in the world to complement that lonely major arcana, if you follow me. And they work well together too. So I've covered every angle if possible. So they're all embracing type.
Yeah, they certainly go into every aspect. But I mean, there's 56 cards you say here? 56?
Yeah. Or is it, I can't remember, 54, 56. I can't even remember what I've done. Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, we don't use it.
They're not numbered. They're just in alphabetical order. Yes.
Well, we put it like that, but they're not in any order at all. It's just whatever is a principal thing. You know, it's interesting. Yeah, that's it. It comes in a nice. Well, I've got one here. Look, this is how it arrived. That's the case. That's the case it comes in.
Yeah.
And it's a top, yeah. And in there, you've got they're very well made. It's a good quality product. The book. See? That gives you some start on it. And then the cards themselves. And then this book gives you something you can put into a frame on every page. You've got the whole picture reproduced on every page with explanations and various features about it, about the card description, short explanation, and features and words that go with the card. And that's a starter point. Max, a friend of mine, he was written a medium level, I say medium level, a bit more advanced level on the cards, which is also available now. He's published it. And that leads you into a more profound understanding of it. But we're going to do, which is in plan, a 5-minute video on each card. And then we're going to do some sessions with reading them and showing them how to use divination or divining processes to do it with. So there's a lot to come yet. So we're going to produce the whole package, but I shudder to tell you how much it costs to get this far. But whereas we're not multi-millionaires, we have to do it the hard way. We've got to earn it first. Sorry, I dropped them. But they're well-made cards, and it's a good quality product. Oh my goodness, sorry, excuse me, I do apologize. I do apologize. Turn that off. And then, of course, with the major, the same. It's virtually the same, but with the major in it. So, yeah, that's the package. You'll be able to buy the book separate. I'd like to give them away for free, but I can't.
Well, by just watching these videos, people can learn a lot about it anyway. Yeah.
Well, they will do time it's done, yeah.
What would you say is the main reason for the tarot? And what would be the main reason for developing one's divinatory life?
Well, the divinatory life is natural in all people. Look, there are 5 basic forms of divination processes, one more refined than the other. And the simplest of them all is clairvoyance. And clairvoyance, you don't have to do much about it at all. In fact, you practice it quite a lot of the time without realizing it. If you're blood linked, like blood brothers, etc., or family, you've got the same blood. And if there's a signal or a surge in the person themselves, they transmit a signal to those on their frequency. So if I put a tuning fork here, pitch A, one here, pitch A, and I bang that rings like a miracle. On its own, it starts ringing. It's on the same wavelength, you see? And that's what happens between people who are close to each other. And so you wake up one morning, you think, I don't know, I'm just worried about my uncle, and I don't know why. And then a message comes later on, oh, your uncle's had an accident. He's in hospital, or something like that. That's clairvoyance. You didn't do anything for it. It's just a message down the pipeline because of a surge, a shock, or an elation of some sort. The next is empathy, of course, which is emotionally based. And that's the easiest for people because people are very empathic. And they can see, that's where the seer, the insighted person is, because he can tell what's going on in the person without even talking to them. And it comes across in a magnetic influence to them. Then there's the medium, and that's in the middle, medium for medium. And they are more descriptive with it. They read things. They can pick up signals. They can mumming is a mediumistic process. What you see when people are saying, I got a message from Fred, is nothing to do with being a medium. And then you have the sensitive. These are people that are more tending towards the phenomenal or the phenomena or the occult, those sort of areas of it, because their senses can pick up electrical signals other people can't, and they can read in the wall who's been there. psychomics are a bit like that. They put a hand on a chair and say, oh, I can't sit on that chair. That old lady, she wet the chair, right? And when you look, yeah, she did. He didn't see that, but he knew who was there. Give him a ring, they can tell you the nature of the person and so on. And then you have the psychic. Well, the psychic, it's really a process of the psyche. And that's more to do with the visionary nature of divination. And all of these are divinatory processes. Divining is a bit more different. Divining is more of a higher tabernacle, or shall we say, event. So you can divine the history or the future of someone and interpret it. And these cards can do that. So you can use these cards, how would you say, as a reading of all the influences that are around you now and the outcome of that. But you can't do that in a divinatory sense. It doesn't have the ability or the power to do so. So divining is using higher process, which we all have. Now, everybody can do that. I taught thousands of people how to do these things. You can be all five if you know how it works. And then you find that it works in you naturally because you have done all of these at different times without knowing it, really. And it's surprising what we put on the side that it was actually a divinatory event, like even something psychic, when you've never considered yourself or touch anything like that. Oh, I was told right from the start, keep away from it. It's not right. It's evil. And prejudice and education, academia and indoctrination all get in the way. And it never becomes an issue in them. In fact, they'd be scared to know that they were clairvoyant because of what they think they know about it. You understand? So this was also produced from the standpoint of being very safe for people to use. It's only it's a card anyway with a picture on it, but it's what you interpret it or what the picture opens up in you. I'm rabbiting on here.
Well, I'm waiting
See
for you.
how can you chop it all down? So, and I've shown thousands of people how to do it. It's very easy if they just give themselves a chance. Really, you'd be surprised what humans can actually do that they don't practice because it's overlaid with a cultural way of life that doesn't allow it.
Okay. Well, you talked about the five different
Divinatory.
aspects. Yes. What would be the fifth then? What would be the fifth one?
Clairvoyance, empathy, mediumship, sensitivity, and psychic.
Okay, psychic. That's the
There's
one.
a problem with the psychic practice, though. They have a tremendous difficulty locating things. Locating it. They know it's happening or where it's going to happen, or they can know for weeks beforehand. I can give you examples of that if you wish. But locating it is a problem. That's where you need a crystal ball. That was a joke, by the way. It's all right. You see, the crystal ball is also a divinatory process, but it's a prop. So tarot isn't the only thing you can use. Really, there are other things that you can use as a medium through which to work.
Yes. So being down by the lake today and watching the tadpoles.
Right.
Afterwards, I had a reflection that normally we start with divining to find water. Yes.
Oh, water divining. Yes.
Water divining. Yes.
Yes.
But the cards can lead to divining to find the waters of the mind.
Well, if you want to put it so poetically, yeah, sure. You should write poetry, my friend. Mind you, got a degree in English. You should be able to.
from tadpoles to the waters of the mind. Yes.
Yes, but tadpoles evolved because they don't have legs at first. Then they grow legs, and then they lose the tail and become a frog. You know, and that's how things evolve. Knowledge is like that. Knowledge has things within it that, unless you are a certain stage or development or sensitivity or something, you don't know. You can't see it. You can't touch it. It doesn't unveil. And you can live with things that have a tremendous amount of knowledge and learning and everything else, but you never see it because your processes just aren't connected to it, or just aren't developed enough, or just don't work. Really.
You can have knowledge with legs or with just a tail that doesn't develop further. Yeah.
Well, a tap will have something to say about that, wouldn't it? I mean, it's certainly going to moan if it doesn't get any legs, isn't it? But then it could find it can't do certain things. Like if you can't do certain things, you can't do it. Right?
So waters of the mind. Yeah, that's what occurred to me today.
I have a question for you.
Coming back to a biblical aspect, yes.
Yeah.
Because when I first came across the cards, and this was in 1980, yes,
Right.
they did lead to the waters of the mind, which was
Now, when you say waters of the mind, what do you actually mean by waters of the mind? I mean, there's lots of expressions of the mind. I mean, I go along with the idea that the mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. And people have closed minds most of the time these days. You know, you've got to get them to open the parachute. And then they connect, they sort of blink and connect. And it's an old saying, you know, what would you do if your brain had a mouth you couldn't control? And who's in control of the mind? So you're a very spiritual man, you see. You are. It's obvious in you too. You have this spiritual journey going on in you. I see it very clearly. Somewhere along that spiritual path, you're going to come across things like this. It may not be tarot. It could be a set of runes. It could be chopsticks. You can actually get a box of matches and do readings with a box of matches by the way in which they fall. Tea leaves, anything. If you have the art. Because it's not hard to come to the answer. Does you think the spiritual world really need such things as this? It's difficult to answer that because you've got to know what the spiritual world is about. But you've been trained to see it a certain way. I'm not saying that, supposing that that is the case with you. I'm just saying, in general, they have their own idea of spirituality from what they've been educated to or informed about, schooling, whatever. So you join one of the big religions, but is that really spiritual? Because I could show you ways in which it's not. That would be too much for some people. So you have your journey too. But where would you include such things as natural process in yourself? One of which I say is divinatory in its nature, and others of a higher order, more towards the head domain, the head life, rather than the heart life. You see, religion is heart-based, blood-based. You've got thousands of churches of the Sacred Heart, but you don't have any churches of the Sacred Brain, do you? Not yet. Maybe that's a new idea. So everything's moving up. And you said about ascension. Everything is elevating. Everything's moving up to a greater. We have here in our heads the most incredible entity of life you could ever wish to meet. And it's a collective of billions of cells that are all alive, know what they are, and work for very higher, superior processes and live as long as you do. Simple cell lives 6 weeks, 28 days even. But these last all your life. And you've got all these massive abilities without the use of them. So we use 5 to 10% of our brain. The rest is taken up with automatic process, they say. But no, the brain has the ability to be conscious with you in it, but we're not in it because our true ascension was to rise through, grow, evolve, and then eventually end up in here as a culture of life form in its natural form. But that's not the way it was arranged. So this is why these things were banned by the church, religion. It's competition. A competition of a natural order rather than a manufactured or cultural one. And people take to them because instinctively they know there's still something they don't know. What are they here for? Why are they here? Is this what are they doing? What's the meaning of it all? No time for that when you're at work earning a living, is it? You follow? And when people come to realize that, especially as they get older, they begin to look again with another eye, and they look around for something that will explain it, even just the beginning. And that's where this begins in them. Things like this. Because they use part of that divining process to go looking. It's like they go searching for butterflies with a net. They go looking for it. What I used to do before I went, when I was skipping off school, I would stand for hours in front of the sarcophagi in the Egyptian room in the British Museum. All the guards knew me. But I used to tell the guards what I saw, and someone said, "How did you know that?" I said, "I just know. I just know that's the case." Proven to be right, too. That's 8 years old. But that was London in those days. You were safe, mostly. Not like today, you lock your doors. But that's how it should have emerged in everybody. I mean, look, come on. 2 million people in San Francisco live on a fort. Right? Now, if there's going to be an earthquake, you can bet your bottom dollar there'll be no cats, no dogs, no lizards, no ants, no anybody around. Gone. Except the human. Why is that? They love earthquakes, obviously. But you kind of get my point. I mean,
they're too busy trying to obtain a PhD, I think.
Oh, well, you would know all about that. You're the man for that, right? You spend enough time doing it. Hmm? See, your interest, I think, is also not spiritual. It's something in you that you're coming to that's going to require something outside of what you would normally call your life, in which you're quite settled. You have your others, that's what we call them, these other people, the others, say, "How are you?" I say, "I'm all right. It's not me, it's the others." And that's the people inside you, right? And they have control and they have influence too, and you're arguing. So if you consider you went to work for 8 hours and there's 5 or 10 different people in you that help you get through that day, how much of that? Hey, that's it. Your day for you has only been an hour long. You've only been yourself for an hour. The other 7 hours were dedicated to other people in yourself, but they are minor to the actual entity of yourself. Your soul's based in that. Spirituality, they say, is to do with your soul. But there's a lot more than spirituality that's to do with the soul and entity of self. And you come to things like that because something in you is divinating for an answer. Things you see, odd things. You're corner right. You see a cat looking in the corner of a room at something, or stroking itself up against something that's not there, but it is. But we say no because we can't see, but cats can. Dogs know too. They do the same thing. They'll growl. Something's in the room that shouldn't be there. It's sense, in other words, a phenomenon or a ghost or a vision or an apparition or whatever it is. Okay, lots of different views on that. And they're part of your living event. But you don't know about it. Now, if you lived a life where you see things like that, your view of life is going to be totally different. How would you explain it to them? How would you keep the mystery of all of that in such a form that the future has got it as well? And that's what they did in the form of the tarot. They were cards from the mysteries of sacred knowledge and things of that kind, only for the selected few, the higher culture of Egypt, as an example. They were different to the common people, but they still came from the same source, and every human being has those abilities. It's ascends in them. That's ascension. And what should rise? You're rising to a greater place than you are at this moment in time in yourself, with greater equipment, something that's far more connected to creation than your physical body is. It's a carriage, a car. And you look at it that way, because the car goes to the scrapyard when it breaks down, doesn't mean the passenger goes with it, does it? And so you've got in here a card on reincarnation. But reincarnation is really the wrong word. See, it's the afterlife. So you lived before you were born, otherwise you couldn't have been born. The body would have been, but you won't be in it. So conception is the woman making the body. The mothers do not make what's in it, the soul. That is an inception that happens. It enters in. When it dies, it comes out. So that's the deception, if you like. It comes out of it. What they are comes out. The rest goes with the body. And if I tell you, it's seeable, you could see these things. But where'd you get the learning? Now the search for truth goes on. And then everybody in the world's chasing all over the world because they think it's on the other side of the garden or in the other country. And when they get there, they're despondent because, no, it's not here. That's not what it is. And then they come back. You know, every week there's a jumbo jet full of people going to a dream in a foreign country and then coming back the following week without the dream and things of this kind. It's around you. It's around you all the time, everywhere, even in the unseen. You can walk with your grandparents, but you won't see them unless they wish you to see. That's in there. Now, this is the new tarot that I brought out because the world is going to come to this. So I've got things I'm looking forward to the world coming to because they're going to find it in our tarot.
Okay, well, we're going to have to finish in about 5 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not taking.
But just to finish on, perhaps you could explain just one aspect about these cards. Why did you choose the swan for the love card?
Well, they are partners for life. How? See, am I thinking about that when I designed these cards? How does a swan chat up a female swan?
Underwater?
I mean, there is a courtship that's unseen, but you know, the swan, in my opinion, is a highly evolved life form. I don't think it can evolve much. It's so beautiful. The way they put their wings up, there's unseen sides to a swan's event, a swan's life, to do with the elemental nature of life. They are connected to things we don't see and know, or people don't generally see and know.
Yeah.
Are partners for life. They really know the meaning of love. They care and look after each other, not in a human way, but in a natural way. And they're totally collected up here. I know for a fact that animals do have the ability of telepathy. I mean, I say to a dog, sit, it sits. A man in Japanese says sit, he sits. So a dog can speak 2 languages. What if you said it in Spanish? Yes, sit. Right? But they're not reading your voice, they're reading something else. And that's where it begins. So they can see things about you you can't see, smell, hear.
Yeah.
They're up they're in front. There was a story about a dog that discovered cancer in a woman's arm because it kept nibbling her arm. And then it started to ache. She went to the doctor and they didn't. She had cancer in the muscle in the arm. So would you call that divinatory? I would call it natural. Because that's natural ability.
Well, a couple of miles from here, there's a moat. Yes, it was part of the defences of England against the French. And
you've got a thing about the French.
I lived there for 28 years.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay.
Anyway, on this moat, a couple of swans have decided to make their home, and they've got a family. They've got 4, what they call them,
cygnets.
Cygnets, yes. They've got 4 cygnets. They're very happy there. People come along, feed them. And every time I walk past them and I see them because I'm up there quite often, I think about this card. I think, yeah.
Yes.
I think about the love card. Yes.
You're also a beautiful animal. When you see them when they're gliding on the water, try looking between the wings on the swan's back. If you have the eyes to see, you might get a surprise. They ferry things across water. I know you may say this is the biggest joke. Well, do you see things?
Yes.
That's the answer to that. How can they say no if they can't see? You understand? So you've got to be open about these things. And it's an age in which we live is open to these things now in this day and age. We would have been executed 300 years ago and burnt at the stake for this conversation. You do realize that, don't
Well, it still might happen.
you? Well, yeah, well, it will do if you rob the Bank of England as well, if you know what I mean. Yeah. But your
Right.
spiritual journey yourself, you see, you're giving rise in what you're doing. It's a good start. You're hitting the future of the human race. The ascendance of it is very based in spirituality. It's essential. But what's going up? What is it that's going up? It should be the real you, shouldn't it?
Definitely.
Then it's close to
The
the
true
entity
you.
itself. It's to do with your natural self, right? That's my opinion.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to finish this in just a minute or so. So
Okay.
hopefully there will be a part three another day, another
All right.
time. Yes.
Yeah. You're
Um,
not bored yet already.
and perhaps you could say a little bit about the group you started on Facebook. Um,
Group I started on Facebook.
yeah, the tarot pack,
Oh,
the
oh,
tarot group.
yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I can do. Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe
Now,
I've something to show you then that's just been made to further this. The real work comes when it's something that you yourself personally wish to practice or be able to at least. Then you need something simple to begin with, but something that's actually connected to the age in which we live, rather than a set of cards that belong to an Egyptian age where we don't do that anymore. You see what I mean?
well, the Egyptians didn't have the Swan Lake, yes, ballet. Uh,
Yeah, well, we know where that came from.
do we?
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is open-ended. Okay, we agree. This is open-ended. Whatever's next is next.
Yeah.
There's lots of other things that tarot is related to: afterlife works, the science of the afterlife, domains, the occult, the esoteric, the religious. It's vast.
Okay. Um, I'll put
So,
a link. I'll put a link under the video for the